really, it's a matter of understand what it is you're buying with the dollars that you're spending. Because if all you think is that you're trying to buy cases with the dollars that you're spending, then you're probably not spending your money overall in the best possible way. It really is about, am I buying love? Am I buying attention? Am I buying awareness? Those are other things that you're buying.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by Consultwebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that can see where you were going with that, but I wonder what Janet might say. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in legal marketing and law firm development. I am Jake Sanders, the content custodian, and sweeping up the halls with me is digital groundskeeper Paul Julius. Paul, I was writing this, and I was wondering if this question, do you have a janitor at your high school or middle school or elementary school that you can remember that left a mark on you? Or what's your thoughts on custodians? Did somebody, you know what I'm talking about? Oh, come on.
Yeah, no, you know what? I remember seeing them, and I think I value their work by not seeing them doing it. You know, it was like the elves in the shoe shop fable, where everything was just magically beautiful every morning when we came in. But I will say now, you know, my kids are both in high school, and I know more of the staff over there, the support staff over there, than I did, you know, when I was in school. And I don't know if that's just like a perception thing, like a, you know, awareness. Like I'm aware of all the moving pieces a little bit more now that I have, you know, a little more perspective on that and stuff.
I don't know. I mean, well, no, you know, it's interesting though, is I think this is a great metaphor for marketing, is because people pay you to do whatever you do. I'm not sure what you do. I know that when things go bad, we call you, or if,
your fault.
Yeah. And then, but we're up late at night polishing the trophy cases, you know, of the people who pay us to do marketing. And I think it's really interesting. But what you're saying is there are certain people who recognize and see the janitors, and there are people that don't.
Yes.
And so I just think it was something that I wanted to hit on, and I think you said it really interesting, because if your kids notice them, then that means it isn't magic, and it isn't elves. They know that it's people that hold it all together, you know. So that's maybe the lesson there. I didn't know that was there, but I like that lesson.
We pulled it out.
Like we're pulling it all out, fresh from the oven.
Correct.
Speaking of freshness, what's on the show today?
Today on the show, we're going to talk ROI with an article from Harvest
Business. That's where it was going somewhere worse, because you used your S too early.
That's right. You can tell one of my kids is getting into that college age, because I couldn't even say Harvard without stumbling over it.
You're like, yeah, right.
On the show today, we talk ROI with an article from Harvard Business Review, discuss content marketing, awareness, and video for lawyers with Emmy Award-winning Ed Herman of Brown and Crouppen. And as always, we test our guests' awareness with 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The article today is from Harvard Business Review. It's called A Refresher on Marketing ROI by Amy Gallo. She's got no reason to lie to us. That's the reason why I picked this. I said, Amy's not going to lie to us about marketing.
Yeah, we've reviewed her stuff before. She's good.
Harvard Business Review doesn't put out slouchy stuff, but this was interesting. It came from a Google search for me typing in, there's more to marketing than ROI. And so this came up because that is sort of the theme of the show with Ed, and I sort of hit the condensation, which isn't the sweaty dewdrops on him, but the things that we've condensed from the interview. is that it's more than ROI. So this is a great piece because it explains what ROI is, straight up gives a great definition. How do you calculate it? How do you look at what's going in? They call it marketing return on investments. So they have a couple different ways to define things. Then there's one part where they say the mistakes that companies make when it comes to measuring ROI with marketing. And this quote right here is fantastic. It says, one of the downsides of marketing ROI is that it's easy to only recognize the incremental profits in short-term sales and underestimate the long-term benefits that marketing brings to brand value. I just think it was amazing that they put this in here. They didn't leave it just at a mathematical exercise. It is sort of this mindset. And I think Ed is really cool because he just helped encapsulate this. And I figured that it was more like marketing is more about more than just ROI. And I thought this was great because it's good primer. And then it also questions these things that Ed has the answer to, which is amazing content that you get Emmys for. So that's my take, man. What did you think about this?
Yeah, I actually highlighted that same quote that you just said, and I think there's some layers to peel back on that a bit, because I don't think it's necessarily a mistake to look at short-term sales when you're looking at ROI, because let's face it. I mean, running a business is hard. Sometimes you can't invest 5 figures and say, well, it's okay. I can wait 3 years for that to pay off. And really what struck me when I was looking at that same quote and my hot take on it is that this is where the graph that we have at the beginning of that nutrition guide starts to put these things into a little perspective, where you have 2 separate things, right? You have your sales activation and your brand reinforcement or brand lift. And as you go along, if you're doing these things, you're going to have these quick hits from those sales focused things. Those would be like your PPC campaigns, your quick mass tort hits on Facebook or something like that. Right. And then these longer, brand value things, which is like what Ed's talking about, really being able to have people strongly identify with who you are in a positive way. But the important thing to notice about the graph, and you can go, it's Consultwebs Nutrition Guide, is that as you go along, those spikes on those sales activation, they start to intersect with the brand lift line. And that's what you want to see, is that your sales activation will increase as you have more of that brand recognition working in your favor as well. And
good point. So
the point of it is, it's important to have that perspective that it's going to affect everything. ROI, we were just talking earlier about data being kind of meaningless in a vacuum. I think it would be important to set goals for certain campaigns or strategies from the outset, just so that you're clear, because you can't necessarily have the same ROI expectations from a general branding, standpoint, where you want everybody to know your name. That's not going to pay off the same way that, a hard-hitting, geo-targeted PPC for car accident campaign would.
Dude, excellent. I'm going to end it here with Amy's. Amy finishes this article in a really great way that kind of summarizes what we've said, and then we'll go on to Ed's interview. She says this: the key is to remember that while marketing expenditures hit the P&L immediately, every dollar you spend today is building your brand as an asset for the future. So ideally, your marketing program is not only affecting sales and profits this year, but also strengthening your brand equity and customer relationships over time.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Tired of being dragged around by Google AdWords or lackluster website designs? Yeah! Are you a lawyer looking for a digital marketing company that you can trust? Yeah! Well, you need Consultwebs. Yeah! Since 1999, we've driven 1 million leads to our law firm clients. We only work with lawyers, so our designs and marketing campaigns are battle tested. And since we've started, we've generated hundreds of millions of dollars for our clients, and we haven't even broken a sweat. Go to Consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, a Lawsome interview.
Ed Herman is the managing partner at Brown & Crouppen, a Missouri-based law firm that's been successfully resolving personal injury cases for clients since 1979. Ed got his J.D. from Washington University in St. Louis, is a member of every conceivable trial lawyer organization, is an Emmy Award-winning host of Brown & Crouppen's own YouTube series, and now he pads his resume further with his court-ordered appearance on the Lawsome podcast today. Mr. Herman, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Emmys, awards, entertaining, these aren't words we associate with content marketing, let alone a law firm being the engine behind creating it. What has the embrace of content looked like from your angle, from the idea stage to the production stage? And why aren't these videos about deposition tactics or like 10 things you need to know after you've driven off a cliff?
Honestly, there's a couple of reasons for that. The main reason is nobody wants to see those videos. The reality of it is, we don't sell hamburgers for a living, right? So it's not like I can go on and entice somebody with a delicious hamburger and they say, you know what, I'm going to get a hamburger. We do legal services. We're a law firm, and most people will never need us. And certainly as of right now, today, 99% of the people that are going to consume any of our commercials or any of our media, they don't need us today. And so to talk about what to do if you're in an accident or what to do if you're in a deposition, it just doesn't strike a chord. It's not relevant. So what can you do today to build a relationship with the public so that when the time comes where they do need a lawyer, you're the first person that they think of? And I think for a long time, people only thought about brand awareness. Do I know a name? But nowadays, it has to go deeper than that. Now people are thinking about brand affection, brand loyalty. Who do they like? Who can they relate to? So the videos that we put together are really designed to be watchable and entertaining and to give people a little glimpse that, yes, we're lawyers and we take our business seriously, but we're also regular people having a good time, making observations about the world around us, and it's entertaining, so people watch it. That's the key.
So what was it like? You guys were convinced about this. Most lawyers are not convinced about content marketing. They don't see the efficacy or the usefulness of making these videos. What was like? Were you pitching this to yourself? Where did this idea come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. It all started, we had, for 40 years, we've always advertised first on radio and then television for the last 35 years. And that works great. You run your commercials, and every law firm has commercials that are pretty similar, but we happen to have a phenomenal, Terry Crouppen, who founded the firm along with Ron Brown. He's always been our television face. He's phenomenal at it, and it was always very effective. But what we realized is that fewer and fewer people are watching television. I mean, it's not rocket science. If you're under the age of 40, you're probably not watching TV. And if you are, you're probably not watching daytime television. You may watch sports. Most people are streaming stuff, and most people are just spending the whole day screwing around on their phones, fishing around social media. So the first thing we realized was if we want this whole next several generations to even know who we are, we better go where they are. You can't expect them to come where we are. So they're on the internet. And what are they doing on there? They're playing on social media. They're watching videos, and they want to laugh, and they want to learn, and they love food, and that's what people are drawn to. So that's the first lesson in this is you got to meet people on their terms. You can't be the one asking for business and then expecting everybody out there to do it on your terms. So we figured out where the people were, and then the second step is figuring out how to get their attention and keep their attention on their terms. You can't just take your lawyer commercials from television and say, oh, well, if they're on the internet, I'll just have my commercial run on Facebook or I'll have it run on YouTube. The internet environment is a purely on-demand environment. If you can scroll past it if you don't like it, you can skip it, you can swipe it. If it's not what your eyeballs want to see or your ears want to hear, you get rid of it. So you have to come up with the kind of content that people are going to stop and pay attention to. And that's what we've done.
I've run so many ad campaigns. Like I used to do all the Google ads, YouTube stuff here at Consultwebs. And so many law firms were like, hey, we already have all this content for TV. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. And you actually, I want to ask you this. Do you think it even makes it worse if you try and do that? Because now the people who are on those things are like, they're not even aware of the medium. They're just blasting stuff everywhere and whatever, right?
I don't know that it necessarily makes it worse, except that it's wasting money. Because, here, I'll share something with you. Maybe you'll find this helpful to see, because I know you are curious, too, about how do you measure things? How do you know what's working and what's not working? And we all know that's the longest running joke, right, in lawyer marketing. I know 50% of my marketing is working. I just don't know which 50%. But here's how I look at it. If you're judging everything that you do just in terms of, did I get cases, then you've already asked the wrong question right out of the gate. Every client that you're ever going to have is going to go through a journey. Some people may look at it as a funnel. Some people may look at it as a journey, a winding road. It doesn't really matter, but certain things have to happen before you can get a client. First thing is they have to know who you are, right? That's the basic one. They got to know your name. They have to know what you do. They have to form an opinion of you, even if it's a mild opinion. And that could be an opinion about your competence, your likability, your relatability, your approachability, but some type of opinion. Then they have to need you. And it doesn't have to happen in this order. These are just things that have to happen on the journey. And then they have to call you, right? That's the call to action. That's the one's call at the bottom of the funnel, whatever you want to call that. And what happens is they measure everything by just whether you ultimately got the call. And some types of marketing, you can do that if you're just doing straight pay-per-click and you're going out and basically you're buying, people clicking on your site, and then you can track them and see if they became a client. You can do that and focus all of your marketing on that. The problem is it's a little cost prohibitive if you're only focusing on the last part of that journey and not the earlier parts. But like, for example, take a billboard campaign. People know intuitively you're never going to get enough cases directly off of a billboard campaign to ever justify the cost of a billboard campaign. And yet everybody does a billboard campaign. And the reason you do it is because a billboard is really level one marketing. That's all about people need to know who you are. Maybe on a billboard, you're able to communicate your name and a practice area. So maybe you can do levels 1 and 2. But when you're judging the effectiveness of a billboard, you're not judging it by cases. You're judging it by awareness. Are more people aware of us now because we've run this campaign compared to the number of people that were aware of us before we ran the campaign? And that's how you know if a billboard campaign was effective. With something like this is that real middle of the funnel, middle of the journey. This is where people are developing qualitative opinions about your law firm compared to somebody else's. And if given the choice, and anything you're going to buy, if given the choice between hiring something that you're familiar with and can relate to or like versus hiring something that you have no familiarity with, 100% of the time, people are going to hire the one that they're familiar with. So this is about developing a relationship with the public. It's about becoming not just known, but familiar. Affection. You said you watched the videos and you felt like you already knew me. That's the whole point. So the way you really want to measure the effectiveness of something like this is engagement. How much are people connecting with you? And, we've been doing this just over a year. Our videos have gotten 26 million views so far between Facebook and YouTube. And the engagement, 200,000 people have taken the time to either react or comment or share one of the videos. And we're putting these primarily in St. Louis and Kansas City. That's where we target them. But of course, when people share them, they may have friends all around the country. But that's enormous. When television is a one-way form of communication, you show a commercial, but you're not really developing a back and forth relationship. With this, we're putting something out. People comment. I comment back to the people that comment. I don't respond to 100% of the comments, but I respond to about 80% of them. I try to do as many as I can. and build that little bit of a relationship there. I did a radio show earlier today, and all they wanted to talk about on the radio show was the YouTube channel.
Mhm.
And when they went to take callers, just people out in the public were very excited to call just to talk to the guy, in the videos and tell me how much they enjoy him and have a laugh over it. So that's the play here is getting yourself out there. I think especially with millennials, they want to put faces with corporations. That's just part of the culture right now. They want to know what a company stands for, who the people are behind the place, and they want to feel a connection to them. And the only way you could develop a relationship, in any kind of relationship in life, I don't care if it's with a girlfriend or with your public, is you got to put some of yourself into it first. You got to be willing to open up and let people into who you are a little bit, and then they're going to feel comfortable around you.
If you're saying that you just open yourself up and let people in, what's holding lawyers back from doing or funding this type of content? Not every lawyer is as jocular and gifted as you are with this delivery. Is there hope? Is there a hope for a content marketing plan for them that's successful with this? Or do you have to be this personality? It is Ed Herman, I mean, it is,
but it's a great question.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that not everybody has to take the style that I do. I have opinions on a lot of things. I like to rant. I'm good at editing. So I'll put together something that looks like a nice, firestorm of interesting rants on a particular topic or observations. But I've helped, there's another law firm up in Colorado, the McDivitt Law Firm,
right.
And great guys, great firm. And, they saw my videos and they knew me personally. And they said, "Hey, what company are you working with?" I said, "Cool Fire Productions right here in St. Louis." And we started consulting with them and said, "Hey, you know what? Let's talk about you guys and what your personalities are and what your dynamic is." And we developed 2 different programs for them that have been very successful. Nothing like my programs. They're a family-run business where the father is the name guy and his wife is the manager of the office, and the one son is like the attorney who's going to take it over, and the daughter does the marketing. And we said that they're such an interesting family, and we came up with a show around them that also, short episodes, but just to let people in, to give them a glimpse of who these people are. And it's wildly entertaining, but, they have very different personalities. So the key is about being genuine. Don't pretend to be something that you're not. Don't try to be somebody else because you saw what they were doing was good. Find your own voice, and good people, good production people like the people at Cool Fire. It's not a cookie cutter thing, but I promise you that if you are in the legal profession, you have a personality, especially if you're in injury law. Injury law is filled with personalities, and people have all sorts of areas of interest. I've got a guy down in North Carolina. And I've been talking to him about developing his own web series. He is a fitness guru, and he's truly like an expert at this. It's the passion of his. He does Ironmans. He's an inspiration. I could never do that, right? If I saw him doing a show about that, I would say, well, I could never do that. What's the opposite of an Ironman? Is there a butter? I don't know what it would be. Butter, dough?
Yeah.
I'm the opposite of that. But I said, if he did a show that really went around his town and showed people his favorite places to bike, his favorite places to run, his favorite places to do his grocery shopping, what his kitchen looks like. You do a whole series of health-related things. That's a really popular thing on the internet, and that would be a way that he could let his public in on who he is and his love for his town and the places he shops and the places he eats and what he orders. And I think we could have done, and we may still, a nice show around that. But my point is that you got to find out what makes you, and figure out a way to share that in an entertaining way with the public.
So getting back to the engagement and does this get cases and stuff like that, specifically, I guess we'd be talking about ROI.
Right.
Jake and I, Jake was a marketing director. I was on the vendor side. I mean, we actually worked together in this kind of relationship. And, at some point we're in meetings, we're in marketing meetings with people who are focused and seemingly unwavering on how did my money turn into money. So
right.
where like how do we answer these questions? Because I mean, we love what you're doing, and I think, you know, particularly this is an important aspect of any really solid marketing strategy. You know, saying that like, oh well, we did this stuff and we can't necessarily tie it to something, but it's working.
No, but you can tie it. You know, you tie it. You have to tie it to the public's opinion of you. You have to be able to do, whether it's focus groups or in this situation, the public is the focus group. It's not like television where you can't dial test it to the public because they don't have that. Reading the comments that come back when you put out different videos is your focus group. When people talk about, I love these guys. When people talk about, I don't need a lawyer today, but if I ever needed one, you'd be the first call I'd make. And you get a lot of comments like that. You realize that that is what is moving the needle with the public at large. You know, we trust commercials because people always do them. And you say, well, you're on TV a bunch, you're going to get cases. Very few firms know what they get compared to what other firms get. Very few firms have any idea which of their commercials are the most successful ones compared to others. There are some tracking devices. They're very unreliable. You have to be willing to listen to the public and trust the idea, basic principles that if the public knows about you and if they know what you do and if they like you, you have to take that connection to know that you have set them up as well as you can. The public, most of the people, like, you wouldn't even know if your stuff was going well. For all these people know, the public is out there, and 80% of them are saying to themselves, I love these guys, and as soon as I need a lawyer, they're my first call. But then those people never need a lawyer. So you don't know. You don't know how the impact you're having unless you're willing to put stuff out for public evaluation. These things are a way of putting yourself out for public evaluation. Are people watching? Are they interested? How long are they watching for? You know, on YouTube, we're getting an average viewer time of 3.5 to 4 minutes per video on average. I mean, you can't get people to stop in their tracks and watch your 30-second commercial on television. They're hearing you in the background. It's like watching political ads. It's one lawyer ad after the next all day long. You know, you're lucky if there's anything you do that pokes your head out above the rest of them on that forefront. So, you know, if they're asking those questions, just trying to pin down a direct attribution on everything you're doing to every dollar they're spending, I can't imagine that those firms are going to do particularly well. If I were them, spend all your money on pay-per-click, overpay for your cases, and at least you know what you got, because that's really the only area. Well, I mean, am I wrong? If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But
No. We will not. Since we sell PPC services, no, we will not counter your assertion. Yes, it stands.
No, but the problem with PPC is that it's, for legal, it's the most competitive industry when it comes to
expensive. So expensive.
It's a fortune. And listen, if a person has no brand name, okay, no brand name recognition, nothing, and they just have some money to spend, and they don't have enough money to make a huge splash, and they don't need that many cases to survive, I would probably tell them, do direct mail if your state allows it. That's probably the most cost effective. And overpay for pay-per-click, because at least you know exactly what you're going to get for your dollars, even though it may not turn out to be particularly profitable for you, depending on the kind of cases that you get. But for people that are out there that already have a brand name established and they've invested in their brand name for decades and the public knows them, and now they're concerned, am I going to hold on to the public in a world where people no longer watch television? You know, remember how many law firms were known just from the Yellow Pages, and they never branched out beyond that? They didn't future-proof their businesses, and they had the double trucks and they had the back page, and it kept them in business. And then all of a sudden, Yellow Pages was gone. And all of those people, you know where they're working right now? For my law firm. They're all here. I've got 3 or 4 people who, they were Yellow Page people that had their own practices. It dried up overnight, and now they work here. They're great lawyers. You just got to keep them busy. But the reality of it is television, it's not there yet. It's still the big fish. I mean, it still produces. There's no question. But I can tell you that we've been tracking for the last 10 years, you know, basic attribution questions when people call in. How did you hear about us type of questions. And, you know, we've kept our questions consistent for over a decade. even though they were flawed questions and you can never have perfect attribution. All I know is that the amount of people who attribute it to television 10 years ago compared to now, it's dropped by 2/3. By 2/3, the percentage from the people that used to say, I heard about you from television, and the people that say that today. But our signups are up. Caseloads are up because we didn't wait around and wait for our one road to close. While one road was starting to slow, we started paving paths on all of the other roads. So we're on we're doing the internet, we're doing the billboards, we're on radio, we're on buses. We are extensively working on, great client service so that we get consistently good referrals from our former clients, existing clients, friends of the firm. That's a huge part of a marketing effort. And now we're doing, the channel.
Mm. So thinking about people that invest, I'm in, I want to do advertising. I'm in, I want to do marketing, but something holds them back because there's something that I've kind of realized that people think advertising cheapens something.
I think that was true 20 years ago for sure. People looked down upon the advertisers, but there's been an evolution. It's been an evolution because nowadays you're not going to find a law firm that doesn't have a website. Every website had to be constructed with some type of sales component to it because you can't just put a website out without thinking about the language that you're using. And obviously you want them to reach out to you. So, they're advertising now. And in any market, it used to be you had one dominant player on television and maybe a second competitor. And now any market you go to is going to have at least 15 to 20 lawyers actively advertising on television. So if there was any kind of, say, stigma attached to it, in the old days, a person would go on TV and say, oh, those ambulance chasers, right? I always looked at it, even before I worked here, and I said, that's counterintuitive to me. If you're advertising ethically, you're not chasing ambulances. You're actually telling the public, this is what I do, and if you need me, this is how you can reach me. I always felt like the people that didn't advertise, they must be the ones out there chasing an ambulance because where are they getting their cases from? Not everybody can exist on referral alone. There's just too many lawyers. So that's why I always felt like it was sort of one of those misnomers that people attributed that behavior to these people when in reality, they were the only ones putting their money where their mouth is and trying to put their money out ahead of time. For the people that rely on referrals, they're still paying for those cases, but they're kind of paying on the back end through maybe co-counsel fees or referral fees to whoever sent them the case.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I wonder how many of those law firms that don't advertise are the ones responsible for the ambulance chasing murmurs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oh, we don't do that. You know what I mean? But it's like
the lawyers who actually do it, most of the PI lawyers that I know, and I know all the big advertisers because our firm's a huge one. We're the biggest one out here, obviously in Missouri. But I've got great relationships with the top advertisers in at least 30 different markets. These are some of the best people you'll ever meet in your life. They care about the law, they care about their businesses, but mostly they care about their clients. They treat them like gold because they spent the money to get them. If you think about it, think about like the things in life that you were given versus the things in life that you had to go out and earn or pay for. You always treated the stuff that you had to go out and pay for, you treated it better than just something that fell into your lap and was given to you. But these people are out there putting their money where their mouth is, spending millions of dollars a year to get their message across. So when that message works and their phone rings and they actually get the clients that they've been seeking, these firms that I'm talking about, they treat their people like gold, the way that we treat our people like gold. We appreciate what it took to get them to call us. You see what I'm saying?
Woo.
So anyway.
Oh, absolutely. We had Jake, wasn't it Harlan telling us about the Texas Hammer?
Mm-hmm.
He said something along
Jimmy
the
Adler.
same.
Oh yeah.
So Jim, so that was the thing, was that Jim, he was one of the original guys doing the hammer and standing all the stuff out. But he's like, you know what? You have to care. Like everything you just said is the same thing that Jim Adler was talking about too. Like it's not about standing on the hood of a truck with a hammer. It's about taking care of people because you're telling everyone I can take care of you.
With a hammer on top of a truck. Yeah.
Jim Adler, and he's a great guy, and his son Bill's a nice guy also. And they have some wonderful commercials of the two of them. You know, it's not like they're not self-aware. I think it's almost ironic. They understand that these spots are over the top, and it's sort of it's a gimmick. It's they have fun with it. They're in on the joke, but they are very attention-getting. They understand their markets. It makes the phone ring. But if you meet Jim Adler in person, he's one of the most soft-spoken, intelligent people that you'll ever sit and have a conversation with. You wouldn't even believe that this guy was capable of screaming. He speaks very slowly. He has a drawl, and he's very, very bright, and he's very kind. But the commercial persona is designed to grab people's attention in a very cluttered world where you have to do something to stand out. And he's, wildly successful. Richie Schwartz, another guy out of Mississippi. He is one of the sharpest, smartest human beings I've ever met in my life. He is on top of things and ahead of the curve on almost every single thing that's out there. How he stays that well informed is beyond my comprehension. And yet in his commercials, he is just having a lot of fun. He's done some of the silliest stuff in his commercials, but it works.
Man, it works. And it's about awareness. I love the 5 steps that you outlined. They have to know you, they have to know what you do, they have to have an opinion, and they have to need your services, and then they have to call you specifically. I think that's such an amazing thing that helps encapsulate these attention-grabbing characters and really puts it into the right frame of mind,
When you sit down with any clients that you're working with and you try to figure out how you're going to spend their dollars, what you really want to ask yourself is, do we want to spend all of that on that? Because that really is all level one. I don't think I want to spend 100% of my budget on just brand awareness because that's not going to get them down the funnel. So you want to sort of divvy up your market, and a lot of it depends on how long have you been in the market. If you go into a brand new market you've never been in, first year or two, you're probably spending the majority of your marketing budget on level 1 and 2. When people need to know who we are, they need to know what we do.
Right.
Maybe you slip a little money on pay-per-click to overpay for a few cases, but you got to get the prime the pump a little bit at the firm. But let's say you're in a market where you're extremely well known, and you can do this with basic focus grouping and seeing unaided recall, how many people know your name, and then give them aided recall, and how many of them know you, and how many of them don't know you aided or unaided. And you can determine, all right, our brand awareness is pretty good. People know who we are. They know what we do. So maybe instead of spending 80% of my dollars on brand awareness, maybe I can cut that down to maybe 40% of my dollars. Maybe now I can start doing some of the things that get to the next level. And you can spend money on this, getting to know you type of advertising, developing brand love. People do it in other industries. I mean, think about this. People develop brand loyalties even when they've never tried the other person's product. Talk to an Apple person who uses an iPhone. They won't even try a Samsung Galaxy. They don't want it. They know what they like and they know what they want, and vice versa. Ask how they did that. How can they be so sure that the one they have is the one that they want? Because they've totally bought into the brand. People that wear Nike shoes don't go out and wear, Adidas or Reebok or whatever. People are very loyal. Think about brands that most people have never even experienced personally and ask them their opinion of Rolex or of Ferrari. They don't own a Rolex. They don't own a Ferrari.
Right.
And yet their opinions are going to be glowing, talking about quality and success and everything that it represents. And it's their dream to have this or to have that. So these things can be influenced by how you build a brand of however you decide to build it, of likability, to develop a brand affection. It's the reason why people sponsor sports teams. What are they really doing when they're sponsoring a sport team? They're not creating brand awareness. They don't need to be on a bill. They could be on a billboard on their own for a lot cheaper than to sponsor the Cardinals.
Well, but
why do we sponsor?
There's an opportunity for someone to put their money towards marketing, and we could sponsor a golfer, or we could sponsor the next golf tournament, or we could hire a production company to make kick-ass videos. Why? Like most people would say, well, I could make a video on my iPhone. My nephew has a microphone. People don't want to pay for this stuff. They look at your stuff and they say, oh, well, I could never do that. Why? I just help these people kind of why didn't you go cheap on this, Ed? You could have gone cheap.
Well, we could have gone cheap. We tend to, if we're going to do something, we want to do it the best way. If we're going to put out videos, we want to put out videos that can win Emmys. Mm-hmm. Because we think that you send a message in just how you conduct your business. And so, if people are going to see even our buses, you say, okay, they're buses. Our buses are fabulous. They are done. They're gorgeous. They are the easiest ones to spot, the easiest ones to read. They're the most attention getting. Because that's what we're all about. Mm-hmm. And we've done basic videos. We've done ones where we say, you know what, let's have 3 lawyers sit around just the boardroom and talk about nursing home cases. And there's a place for that stuff. There really is. There's a place for it. Mm. If you want to pick a topic, and here's why there's a place for it. Because for the people that let's say the people that actually need you today, let's talk about that tiny percentage of people, because obviously you don't want to ignore them. You want to have videos if let's say they have a nursing home abuse case. You want them to go on and do a search about nursing home abuse. You want to have a video that does come up and do that, but you don't have to make that video entertaining because that video is already speaking to what they're looking for. So if they are looking for a video about nursing home abuse and our video comes up of our lawyers sitting around the table, they'll watch that because right now they have an immediate need and interest in that already. You don't need to dazzle them. You don't need to entertain them. You just need to answer their question. So, the same thing with what to do after an accident. Mm-hmm. You don't need to dazzle or entertain them on that. They're only going to type in that search when they actually need to know what they need to do after an accident. So all you have to do at that point is give them the good information. It doesn't have to be fancy. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to get their attention when they don't need a lawyer, that's when you have to entertain and grab their attention.
And then talk about
need a lawyer, it's not a problem.
And then back up to the Emmy. How did you guys get an Emmy? I want everybody to know that this law firm got an Emmy for their videos. 2 of them.
Yeah, we got 2 of them.
So explain this.
Academy.
Yeah.
Well, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, they have all sorts of Emmys. You've seen them. They're the primetime Emmys that cover like the shows on HBO and Netflix. Mm-hmm. There are daytime Emmys that cover things like Ellen and game shows and talk shows and other stuff that happens there. And then there are the Emmys that go around the country that cover everything from your local weather coverage, news coverage, and sports coverage, and special interest stories, and public service announcements, and all the other stuff that goes on television and streaming. And so, our production company entered some of our videos in for consideration for some of the available Emmys that they thought they had a shot at. And there is a category of lifestyle program. And they entered Ed Versus, which is the show that I do on my own. And the episode Ed Versus Airplanes won the Emmy, at least, for this part of the world.
Now, the moment on the flight that I fear the most, and this is, I fear this more than I fear crashing, is when I have to pass that precariously full cup of soda over to the person sitting on this side of it. They fill it so close to the brim, and then that one move, because you gotta realize, this might be the only pair of pants I brought with me. These things go down, I got nothing. The nightmare scenario is that this person over here orders a cup of hot coffee, and I gotta sit there, and they don't put a lid on it. 2 minutes ago, these same people told me that I needed to keep my seatbelt on because at any minute, the plane could start shaking, and yet they're passing hot coffee over me with no lid.
That was very exciting. And then our cartoon, we have a cartoon series called Terry's Safety Squad. If you haven't seen that one, I mean, that looks every bit as professional as any cartoon that you'd see on Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. And it's centered around our spokesperson and our founder, Terry Crouppen. He does the voice of his own character. He's very funny. I do the voice of the bad guy in it.
A perfect day, a good little girl, but then a perfect opportunity for a bad idea.
Aw, cute. A little puppy. I wish I had a dog.
Yeah, go ahead, kid. Why don't you pet him? It's like he'll be yours. He'll probably like you.
A stranger? Who are you?
I'm the bad idea bandit, kid.
What? It's the safety signal.
Sir, there's a risk of a dog bite near Forest Park.
A dog bite risk? Oh no! The bad idea bandit. Well, not today.
And that one was recognized and got an Emmy as a PSA because they're safety videos for kids. Just like the way we would have had Schoolhouse Rock, they watch these and they can learn about approaching strange dogs, or they can learn about not talking to strangers, or street safety. But it's all done as very funny little cartoons. And even the one about stranger danger was a musical. We actually had original music composed, and the guy singing the song is our actual founder. That's Terry Crouppen singing on that video. And so
it's so good. It's so brilliant. I blacked out. I think I shared that with you on social media. I was like, I'm blacking out right now because no law firm has a right to be making this kind of stuff. And you guys are doing it. And it's just amazing.
Well, and before I forget, it's worth mentioning my latest video actually dropped today, which is Ed versus Facebook. And this one I put a lot of effort into.
Pull the gloves off.
This is a great one. This is brand new. You can see it on our YouTube channel. The easiest way to access it is www.getbctv.com. It'll take you right to the channel. You could also follow us on Facebook, and of course, everything gets posted there. And I have a fan page. Ed Herman of Ed Versus, and we just started the fan page like in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it's been, a couple months. And I've got about 3,400, 3,500 followers so far, which, that's crazy to me. I mean, I love it.
It is crazy.
It's growing rapidly, but I mean, consider that. And then once you have your audience captive, we've got, 13,300 subscribers now on the channel, and another 3,500 on my page. And we've got about 30,000 on our Facebook page. Once you have your audience captive, because you've entertained them, now if I want to feed them some important information about a drug that they need to know about, or a device that got recalled, or some other thing I want to let them know about the firm, now they'll actually listen to me. Now I've got something to say, and I've already got their attention. If I want to put a little medicine in with all the sugar, I can do that.
Ed versus Airplanes has 462,000 views.
And that's just on YouTube.
Real. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just YouTube. Facebook had more than that. My Naps video, Ed versus Naps, has got over 1 million on YouTube, over 1 million on Facebook. I think it was at 2.2 million last I checked total. And that was just me for 5 minutes. It's a 5-minute video where I teach people how to take a great nap. But it's funny and it's relatable. And again, you got to figure out what your thing is. But everybody, I promise you, everybody has got a thing. Everybody is far more entertaining than they realize. We as a people are voyeuristic. We like to feel like we're getting an inside look at almost anybody. It's just a matter of whether or not they'll let us in.
So keeping all this, with all that in mind, besides the content, besides Emmys, all this other stuff that you're working on, what's one piece of marketing advice that you could give to our listeners, like right now, that they could start doing, what's the Ed versus marketing for the Lawsome listeners?
Really, it's a matter of understand what it is you're buying with the dollars that you're spending. Because if all you think is that you're trying to buy cases with the dollars that you're spending, then you're probably not spending your money overall in the best possible way. It really is about, am I buying love? Am I buying attention? Am I buying awareness? Those are other things that you're buying. Getting back just to like Cardinal sponsorships, for example. Do you think anybody's picking up the phone and calling you because they're like, oh, they sponsor the Cardinals, I'm going to call them? No, they're not consciously thinking of that. But every time they see your name associated with something that they already love, already trust, are already loyal to, it does bleed over to you. You do get to glom off of that. And when you do it consistently enough, you get to reap the benefit of all of it. We call that the Pitbull model. The record producer Pitbull?
Oh, yes.
The guy's a genius.
Mr.
But when he
Worldwide.
started, he is now, but when he started, he co-branded. He would do a song with J-Lo. He would do a song with Christina Aguilera. He'd do a song with Kesha. And every time he did a collaboration, it raised his profile and his credibility until eventually he was the name. And it became, who is he going to choose to work with next and not the other way around? So when you do the sports sponsorships, that's what you're doing. Or you do the segments on the news programs, you're borrowing off of their established audience, their loyal audience, the credibility that comes along with the news channel. So, all of those things. So that, I guess my one bit to answer your question is, really think when you're spending the money, what am I trying to buy with this money? And how will I know if I bought it? And don't make it about the cases. It's like, what it is? It's like saying, I want to lose weight. Well, how do you lose weight? Do you lose weight by weighing in every day? No, that's how you can tell if you've lost weight. That's not how you lose weight. The way you lose weight is the process. If you know you're doing the process correctly, the weight will take care of itself. If you know that you're following, your calories and your exercise and all of that, that's how you know. And so it's the same thing when it comes to marketing. There are tried and true things that we know in marketing. You have to be known. You have to be liked more than the other guys. So don't keep looking at the bottom and that's like getting on the scale. What do I weigh? What do I weigh? What do I weigh? Trust the process. Do everything the way you know it's supposed to be done. Get in front of as many eyeballs as you can. Do it in the ways that brand you in the ways that are most important to you. Do it in a way that is genuine. And if you do that, the business will come.
And just as a marketer and this podcast is a content marketing vehicle for our company, Consultwebs. We could be talking to you about search engine optimization right now. We should be talking to you about web design. But what we talk about is marketing writ large for lawyers so they can understand and bring these principles. And I think the main one that you hit here was, what are you buying? Because ROI isn't just this thing. You can actually buy a thought. You can buy love. You can buy peace. You can buy like these things. And it isn't just about the cases. I think but it feels woo-woo. Does that feel woo-woo to people? I mean, do you get scoffed?
It shouldn't. Because you know what? When you talk to your clients, if and maybe you do marketing surveys, not when a client first hires you, but maybe 30 to 60 days into the case when you've already kind of established a relationship and, you don't want to ever send the signal that you're not prioritizing their case and the work that has to be done. But there's a tremendous curiosity of how these clients made their decision to come to you. What were their steps? What influenced it? And you might think, oh, wow, television's great. Television might have just been the last place they saw you, you have no idea if that's the thing that really influenced why they called you instead of calling the other guy. And then you start talking to your clients and say, well, what was it? Why? There were a lot of other people out there. Why'd you do it? You'll hear some people say, well, I knew your name my whole life. Well, that's a lifetime of branding that did that. That wasn't a call to action commercial, right? Or you'll sit there and say, well, I actually met one of your attorneys at some event, and he seemed like a pretty nice guy. It just created a nice impression. So then you say, oh, so maybe working some of those events might make a difference, but you'd never know that person came that way. That person's not going to really answer that when they're just asked a general question. Or you might have a survey where you say, how familiar were you with our television advertising, with our YouTube channel and videos, with our billboards, how much did each of those things play a role in your decision to hire us? And what you'll find too is, you have to have the supporting stuff beyond it. You can have great awareness, but if they go and they see your Google reviews and your reviews are terrible, that might cost you business. So you can't just evaluate the things that might get you business. You also have to evaluate the things that might be costing you business. People leeching your name on the internet might be costing you business. People that have no right to leech your name through pay-per-click might be costing you business. So you have to make an evaluation of those things too.
Man, Ed, we got to get out of here because people have stuff to do. But people want to know more about you. They want to learn more. They want to follow you. How can they get in contact with you and connect with Ed Herman on the internet?
The easiest way is go on Facebook. The name of my fan page is Ed Herman of Ed Versus, and I control that page 100, on my own. I have so anything that gets posted there, it's because I posted it. And any comments or responses that come on there is me actually on my phone typing myself. And people can send me private messages through there. They can post stuff. They can watch all the stuff that I've been talking about. I appear on other shows as well. The other show we do is Three Lawyers Eating Sandwiches, which is a huge success with me and two of my partners, Terry and Andy. And we go to a lot of local places. We eat sandwiches. We sit around, and it's like you're having lunch with us, but it's really funny.
Yeah, I watched one of those.
It's slickly edited, and we talk to each other. So they can go on there and see everything. And I'm, as you can tell, it doesn't take much to get me talking. So I'm an open book, and if people want to learn more about anything I've had to say, they're more than welcome to reach out.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
Oh, yeah, I know what that was. What was the one that they made into that sci-fi movie last year that Spielberg directed about the kid with the video games?
Ready Player One?
Ready Player One. Yes, that is the last book I read.
Good one.
Number 2, what is your favorite place?
New York City.
Number 3, what sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
Well, I'm on Facebook constantly. I'm on Instagram constantly. I'm trying to get into podcasts now, but I haven't. Everyone's giving me recommendations on them, but I'm not at the point where I can plug any of them. I spend most of my time watching stuff on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu.
Sweet. Number 4, if you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Does peanut butter count as a condiment? Because I would definitely bring peanut butter with me, but I don't know if it technically qualifies as a condiment.
We'll accept that. People have said like bourbon,
Yeah, somebody said salt.
Salt, yeah.
Oh, well, then I'm just going with peanut butter. Then I really don't need anything else or anybody else.
All right. Last one. After a long day or long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
It always involves a particular cookie. If you guys are not familiar with Dad's Scotch oatmeal cookies, they are the single greatest cookie in the world. So if I'm relaxing, I'm probably on my couch. I'm likely eating Dad's Scotch oatmeal cookies, and I'm probably binge watching something on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsomepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.